Let's get hyped. Welcome back to the Husker247 HypeCast after your second bye week of the season, the last bye week, unless I don't know how that would change. I guess Nebraska gets to a bowl game, you get multiple bye weeks in a row, and then they play that bowl game. Bruntz, save me here. There's no way Nebraska can have another bye week, right?
I don't believe that would be the case. Yeah, you're on your own. You're just kind of languishing out there. So
languishing is what I do best. So that's just what the people are going to enjoy here as we start the Husker247 HypeCast, which this week Nebraska plays Illinois on Saturday at 2:30, an ABC game, a rarity in these parts it seems for Nebraska anymore. But that is what's happening on Saturday, and so who better than to bring in our chief expert, all things Champaign, Mr. Illini himself, Kevin Sjuts. Kevin, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the HypeCast. I always just love hearing it every week of a Nebraska game. Just hearing Schaefer yell, "Let's get hype."
As Nebraska's record in that stretch is something like 18-37. So you could probably draw a line to the downfall of Nebraska as a football program with the rise of the HypeCast as a weekly thing in the fall. I mean, I don't know that it's what's causing it, but the record isn't strong since people have started getting hyped.
That's admirable of you to go straight to like a stat behind what the HypeCast correlates to. I think let's just go off emotion. People love it, Schaefer. Let's not kid ourselves. I got a new appreciation about the HypeCast, if I may, because
Absolutely.
My son went with me to the Nebraska-Purdue game a few weeks ago, which feels like 7 months ago. And one of my traditions on a road game is to listen to the HypeCast as I'm traveling. So my son got to enjoy the HypeCast with me. And from the beginning, you had him hooked. He's like, he didn't know what was going on. And then you got to the oddly specific predictions. And I think this 13-year-old may now be a regular listener to the HypeCast.
All right, that's good. That's probably our target audience.
We're really big with the middle school set. That's where we're very popular there.
We train well with the bizarre.
He did ask after the fact too if any of those predictions came true, and sadly, I had to tell him no.
Sometimes they do. Like that's the glorious thing is that every now and then a 27-yard field goal attempt will get blocked exactly as predicted on the Thursday HypeCast edition. So, it's always special when those moments come through. Bruntz has like 5 of them over the last 3 years.
Many are still talking about Travis Vokalek's 6-catch, 1 touchdown day earlier this season that was correctly predicted here on the HypeCast. So I still think the best was the Conavainoa toe tap touchdown in the back of the end zone. That was a little too specific. So.
Yeah, that was the highlight of his career and perhaps the highlight of the Husker247 HypeCast.
I almost got thrown out of the press box. I was yelling so loud when that happened. Did you see that? Did you see that? That's basically.
I could have swore you were just screaming, "Let's get hyped! Let's get hyped!"
For people who just listen on the podcast, Kevin, by the way, is wearing a great Illinois hooded sweatshirt from their last Rose Bowl appearance. When was that?
2008.
Okay, there you go. So he's ready to talk about this game.
That was Juice Williams, right?
It was Juice Williams. It was a Ron Zook team, Richard Mendenhall. I would say maybe that's their last good team. Just for all the listeners and viewers out there, guys, I do have beside me, I didn't know if this was acceptable. I didn't know what the HypeCast attire requirements are, but knowing it's Illinois week, I figured I would go all in. Hopefully people understand that I grew up outside of Illinois, or the University of Illinois, about 30 minutes away, graduated from there. I actually worked for the football department for a few years. So if this is not acceptable, I can step off frame and change the shirt. I've got a Nebraska hoodie right over here. I got an Illinois recruiting pullover too. So are we all right?
I'm completely fine with it. The only way that it could be better is if you busted out the Nebra Noise jersey from that kid or Nebraska, whichever it was. So, I mean, if you have one of those.
I don't. That requires too much work.
Level up. That's fair. I think that's entirely fair. But I am glad that kid exists and that pops up every time these teams play.
How old do you think that kid is now? That photo's got to be 7, 8 years old. He's probably maybe in college.
2015? Was that 2015 in Champaign? The dreary day with Nebraska giving it up at the end.
That could very well be.
Yeah,
and I think everybody knows what we're talking about too. The fact that this photo is so popular.
He's probably like applying for schools now and is very, very confused and not at all dedicated to where he's applying. Just using the shotgun method and applying everywhere.
We're going to have to find that kid.
What if he's between Nebraska and Illinois?
And this game is the deciding factor for where he's going to, apply.
The trajectory of his life is going to be determined by Illinois' ability to cover Trey Palmer. What a way to to put your future in the hands of fate.
Yeah.
We say all this, but watch, he's really like a ACT 34 kid, and he's about to go to an Ivy League school, and he has no feelings toward either of these Big Ten schools.
Probably
he was like
awesome.
He was a child prodigy that was maybe he was already in school then. Like maybe he's graduated already. He's got his PhD,
undergrad, and then he got his graduate degree.
Yeah,
nice. I like that. I like that a lot. All right, let's dive into some football stuff. Specifically, we'll start on offense as we always do. Kevin, what can Trey Palmer do for an encore after that performance? I mean, that was one of the best individual performances we've seen from a player in a Big Ten game at Nebraska in a long time that wasn't a quarterback. I mean, that was a really, really big game for Trey Palmer, and he nearly allowed Nebraska to sneak out of West Lafayette with a win.
Yeah, 237 receiving. That's an incredible performance. What can he do as an encore is the question, Schaefer. I would say show that he can be a receiver that isn't just a home run hitter. He has incredible speed. And I thought it was interesting. Mickey Joseph said this week, he's the fastest receiver Joseph has ever covered. Think about the guys that he has he's coached. Think about the guys that he has coached. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. You telling me Trey Palmer's faster than Jamar Chase? Joseph did. I find that a little bit surprising to hear those words out of his mouth. But we know that if he gets second level, odds are he's getting behind the defense. Teams are going to adjust their defensive philosophy with how to bracket him, guard him, double him, whatever they might do. I think the next step for Trey is to, continue to come up with catches in traffic, go over the middle and show that you can not only possess the football, but then also get upfield and maybe make guys miss at the second level as opposed to just outrunning everybody. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but a lot of these home run balls to Trey Palmer, they're not the prettiest of footballs from Casey Thompson. I'm not trying to put the quarterback on blast, but I would say 2 out of every 3, they're not tight spirals. They're kind of ducks. And I realized that just because during most of the Nebraska football games, I'm running a camera. And sometimes when the ball comes out of the quarterback's hand, we zoom in to just the ball to try to get the artsy shot. And there have been a couple of times where midair, I'm thinking, oh, that pass doesn't look very good. But then it ends up in the hands of Trey Palmer and he hits a 56, 59 yard or whatever. And you're like, wow, that was a great play. But like a second and a half prior to that, you're thinking, this is kind of not aesthetically pleasing. So what he is doing is pretty remarkable.
I feel like that's a good tagline for Nebraska football. This is kind of not aesthetically pleasing. You could pitch that to the marketing department and see what they can do with that. Bruntz, what does a good game for Anthony Grant look like on Saturday while acknowledging how good Illinois' defensive front is and the struggles Nebraska's offensive line has had? But it's hard for me to imagine the Huskers winning Saturday if they don't get a strong performance from Grant or find at least some success on the ground, even if that doesn't necessarily look like 100 yards.
Yeah, I know this week Mickey Joseph kind of poo-pooed the conversation about time of possession, but that is a big piece of it to me with Anthony Grant is whether or not you can sustain drives. He doesn't need to break 25, 30 yarders. They'll take that if he does it, but you need to be able to at least give Illinois the thought that you can run the ball with some kind of success and stick to it. I mean, I do think part of Nebraska's issue against Purdue was they did fall behind in the second quarter by quite a bit. And then it was like, okay, we're just going to start chucking it deep, and that works. But I mean, this Illinois team is not one that you can have a 2-1 difference in time of possession and expect to walk out with a win. So he doesn't need to get to 100, but he needs to keep the chains moving. They need to keep it in third and manageable. That to me would be more of a successful day. And, as opposed to basically by the time you get to the 10-minute mark of the third quarter, Illinois isn't even concerned about Nebraska attempting to run the ball.
Kevin, do you think that it would behoove Nebraska to try to use Casey Thompson a little bit more in designed runs, given how good this Illinois defense is? Bruntz is shaking his head no.
I'm with Bruntz on this. No way, because this Illinois defense, they hit hard. If Casey Thompson is already a little bit banged up, and they said the bye week was very good for him just to heal the body and all the recovery he's done over the past 2 weeks, all it's going to take is about 3 runs and pops over the middle, and he might be out of the football game. So I would say if you're going to try to establish the ground game or at least some sort of offense that runs the clock a little bit, don't do it with the quarterback because he is going to get hurt. This is a physical, hard-hitting defense. I know you guys will probably get into some of the numbers here in a bit, but from the numbers support that this Illinois defense, they are good. And I've been watching them throughout this year. They're physical up front. They are pretty good at the second level or at the linebacker spot. And then in the secondary, they are really good. And they're not just good at taking the football away, but they will pop you over the middle. And even runs that bust out to about 7 to 12 yards, they come up, they put their pads down, and they'll hit you hard. So this is a buckle up your chin strap kind of football game, I would predict. And I think if you're Nebraska, you try to remove your quarterback from that situation, and you probably can't lean too heavily on one running back. Otherwise, they're going to get worn down, and then you're running the risk of injury. And Nebraska needs to not just look at this game in front of them. They have to look at the 5-game stretch because this style of football, it's not going away after the Illinois game. It is here to stay all through November.
Yeah. The reason I bring up the quarterback run game is that you're talking about a man-to-man defense. And one of the ways that Nebraska has been successful against Illinois is Adrian Martinez getting out there and running, whether it's a scramble or whether it's a designed run. It's hard for me to imagine Nebraska having success if they don't have a couple of those havoc type plays from Casey Thompson, though.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Some of my friends that still go to Nebraska, to Illinois football games and follow the team closely and cheer for them, they were so tired of Adrian Martinez for that very purpose, right? Because they always felt like they had Nebraska stopped on a 3rd and 7, and then Adrian would squirt free and get a nice pickup. Now, the one game that doesn't apply to that is 2020 because that was the game Adrian didn't play until the very, very end. But they remember, these Illinois fans that I'm friends with, they remember Adrian, the guy that even last year was pretty effective running the football in a broken play. And then what would have been in 2019, he did the same thing. They were just tired of it. So I think there is opportunity. However, the defense for Illinois just looks different now. They're going to have to maybe get creative with how to get some yards if they want to control the clock like Bruntz talked about. It's going to be tough, though.
Bruntz, any changes with the offensive line?
I'm not expecting too much. It sounds like Brock Bando is closer than Kevin Williams to getting back. I mean, I think at this point in the season and with that group, you are who you are. Like that's just kind of, you need the guys that are there to just play better. And maybe the bye helps that. I think Mark Whipple's got to get a little bit creative with scheming up protection, but I just don't I think we're past the point of any kind of magic step forward that group is going to take. And to your point about Casey and maybe being more involved in the running game, I think if he pulls it on some of those read plays once or twice, I think that's a good thing. But when you have a hard enough time keeping your quarterback upright when you're just dropping back to pass, I don't think you want him, because Casey's a great athlete, but he always just never feels like he's just fully committed to running it either. It's kind of like, okay, and then he takes off, and then it's like, okay, just slide, get down, like just please, like just stop. No, like I think your point's correct. I don't know that they need to go overboard though, because I think like Kevin's point is correct, and this was something about Illinois' defense that they were saying back when Lovie Smith was there, that was among the harder hitting groups that Nebraska would face. Yeah,
they absolutely crush people.
So I remember JD Spielman when JD was still on the team. Might have been a Mike Riley team playing at Illinois. I remember he walked off the field, and it's like
2019. It was 2019. I know what you're talking about.
It was a night game, correct, Schaefer?
Yep.
Yeah, it was a night game, and those DBs just teed off on Nebraska's receivers. And I remember getting a shot of Spielman walking off the field, and he looked like almost like a high school freshman that was asked to play varsity. And then you come off the field like, that was just a different level of dude I was going up against. And he was beaten down by an Illinois secondary.
Yeah, no, Illinois has been one of the hardest hitting teams I think Nebraska's played the last 5 years, each of those games, regardless of result. That 2019 game, I mean, they kept trying to hit those post patterns to JD Spielman, and he kept just getting smashed by the safety. So we'll see what it looks like. On the defensive side of the ball for Nebraska, Bruntz, is Chase Brown the single scariest running back Nebraska's played this year?
To this point, yes.
Who's scarier on the schedule, Braylon Allen? Because I think it's Chase Brown.
Yeah, I mean Brown. I think Brown's a better receiver too, which I think is kind of cause for concern there with Nebraska's linebackers trying to cover him. But yeah, I mean this is the start of a pretty big boy stretch of football games. I mean, I would think Blake Corum maybe would have something to say about who's best there, but yeah, I mean there's no mystery about what Illinois is going to try to do. We'll see if Nebraska's linebackers are up to the task, put it that way.
Kevin, you've watched a lot of Illinois football this year, and I'm sure you watched some last year too. How was Brett Bielema able to get this offense to kind of look like Wisconsin light as quickly as he has?
It's the same schematics, the same formations that Wisconsin ran when Brett was the coach there. He will put 6-7 guys on the line. He'll pack it in tight. They'll stay between the tackles, and they just play calling wise too, guys. Like Chase Brown averages 27 carries a game. They just lean on him, and it's not like they have a pinch hitter. Reggie, his last name's escaping me. He's the backup running back. He'll come in, but it's just to give Brown a break after carrying the ball 7 times on one drive. So how do they get it to look like Wisconsin light? I like the way you termed that, by the way, Shape. That's very accurate. But it's just based on how they line up and then what they do when the play starts. They stay under center a lot. They go I formation. They get a little bit modern, and they'll fake a jet sweep every now and again because they have an elusive guy on the edge in Isaiah Williams, who is a former high school quarterback. In fact, he signed with Illinois to play quarterback, and now he's one of the top receivers in the Big Ten, so they can utilize him in a number of ways, and that allows them to become a little bit contemporary with the offensive approach. But ultimately, they just like to run the football. They're fine getting 3 to 5 yards, and they have a quarterback that manages the game. I know that seems like a dirty term in 2022 football, a game manager, but it's exactly what a Brett Bielema offense needs. Yep. They don't need anybody to light the stat sheet up, but Tommy DeVito is perfect for what he wants. And there was question whether he was going to play in the Fighting Illini's last game against Minnesota. And I went to Memorial Stadium. I didn't go to the game, but it was homecoming there. So I went to a few of the tailgates. They had a few alumni activities that I was able to participate in before Nebraska played Purdue later in the night. So that lined up perfectly. But I got the sense while I was there and talking to some of the Illinois folk that they didn't know if DeVito was going to play. And there was legit concern about the Illinois-Minnesota game with DeVito not in the lineup because he had played or practiced only sparingly that week. And the general thought was he was going to be unavailable. But they announced it about an hour and a half prior to kickoff. And just the attitude and optimism of that game flipped 180, solely knowing that Tommy DeVito was going to play. You would think that, like, all of a sudden you found out that Peyton Manning was going to be playing. But their thoughts and outlook toward the game completely changed with that status update of Tommy DeVito playing. And I don't know if some of that was gamesmanship because Brett Bielema is a veteran coach and he knows how to work the system. Maybe not. Maybe it's just they find him as an efficient quarterback and he completes over 60% of his passes.
It's over 70.
Oh, is it over? I was going to say, like, that's the thing. Like, his interception totals are way low. I think only 2 on the year. And they keep the change moving.
Doesn't put the ball up for grabs. Yeah.
Nope. And they will throw it in goal line situation too, which is opposite what you would think. You think when they get, inside the 10, it's Chase Brown time. Well, then they fake Chase Brown and they roll him out. And it's kind of like the plays I used to run when I played Madden back in the day. Like, I love the little bootleg because you get everybody collapsing on the running back and then your fullback is wide open in the end zone and boom. You get the big man who can run a little bit and has okay hands. You get him a score.
Who was the Bears tight end that you were throwing to in 1998 on Madden with Jim Miller?
1998. Whew. Who was the Bears tight end? They've gone through a litany. Who was the quarterback? They have a different quarterback every year.
These are the questions for us to learn after the show. So we'll bring that back. We'll figure that out. Bruntz, finishing up here with the defense. Nebraska's front 7 pretty banged up in the linebacker spot. Haven't really had to face much of a smash mouth running game yet. What's the level of apprehension here? I mean, you're facing the best running back potentially in the Big Ten, a team that just wants to go right at you. Nick Henrich is out. So you're already a little thin there, and frankly, Nebraska hasn't looked particularly good against the run this year.
Yeah, well, they haven't, and coming in, I mean, Nebraska's last in every defensive category in the Big Ten right now, including rushing defense, where they're 115th nationally. So, which is an improvement, by the way. The concern, I think, is. To me is you have to be able to take something away from Illinois.
Yep.
And I do wonder if you see a little bit more of the game plan that perhaps they used against Rutgers, where you don't necessarily sell out to stop the run, but that's something you got to try to do. And I think the thing that they're going to run into issues with is if Illinois is able to crack it on the ground, and they're able to start hitting play action stuff. I mean, that just opens the entire playbook. So the front 7 for me is a huge concern in this game. The front 7 is a huge concern the rest of the way for Nebraska on this schedule, especially with being a little bit limited at linebacker. It sounds like Luke Reimer's back, which is a good thing, but this is going to be big boy physical football. And, this defensive line, I don't know if they're necessarily set up to play that kind of game. We'll find out, but you can't allow Chase Brown to get loose on you and just kind of allow Illinois to pick their number on the ground, because that's going to make for a very, very long Saturday.
I have a question for you guys. Who's Nebraska's best tackler?
I don't have an immediate answer. It's Luke Reimer, but he hasn't been this year. And who even knows with his health status how effective he'll be. If it's not Luke Reimer, then I honestly don't have a great answer for you. Like they're a bad tackling team.
I would say Luke Reimer and at times Marcus Buford.
Okay, I'll take those. I was just curious. I've struggled with answering that question myself. Mickey Joseph, when he took over, that was step number 1, was getting the team to tackle because they'd been tagging off for 4 years. So Mickey identified they couldn't tackle well. We collectively can't really identify who the best tackler on the team is. Hate to share this with you, but Chase Brown is second in the nation in created missed tackles in terms of all ball carriers, whether it's receiver, quarterback, or running back. So that's a major, major issue for this team. And it's one thing that creates a lot of pessimism if you're a Nebraska fan for this matchup.
So you're saying there's a chance he could be first after this weekend?
I didn't say that. You said that, maybe. Is
that your oddly specific prediction?
No, but I think we could revise it right now in the moment. But no, I don't know how Nebraska stops Chase Brown. I mean, he creates missed tackles. He falls forward. He gets the ball 27 times a game. You know what? Somehow the stats and everything that we've learned over the first 7 games of the season, we need to have a 7-game outlier, and this be the new truth about Nebraska football.
No doubt about that. All right, Kevin. So oddly specific prediction. It's not that Chase Brown will be leading the country in yards created after breaking tackles, though you could go that route if you wanted to. What are you going with on Saturday?
I'm going to go for an oddly specific prediction that Nebraska's leading rusher in this game is Ramir Johnson, that he is going to come off the bench. He is going to get a nice workload because Anthony Grant will get bottled up. They will start to use Ramir a little bit more in space. They will give him some draw plays. And I feel like Johnson will lead Nebraska in rushing in this game with a grand total of, 76 rushing yards and a score.
Wow. All right.
Whoa, off the
Ramir
milk
Johnson.
carton.
That's exciting. That's interesting. I'm going to go with a completely different type of prediction for me. And I'm going to say this. The first 4 scores on Saturday will not be touchdowns. There will be either field goals or safeties that put up points on the board. And at some point, it will be, I'm saying field goals, Illinois will have a 9-3 lead on Nebraska. So the first 4 times there is a score added, they will all be field goals. Bruntz does not like that prediction.
No, I like that. I'm at once. I'm a little bit at a loss for predictions here. So every time Illinois plays Nebraska, I feel like I'm always brought back into like the 2015 to 2017 type recruiting classes. We've seen all these guys at satellite camps. They were all at Friday Night Lights camps. They were running around on the same field that Micah Parsons was running around on way back in the day. I think it's going to – I'm expecting a low-scoring game on Saturday. But I think Nebraska fans are going to see touchdowns on Illinois' side by 2 very familiar names. One, Isaiah Williams, who Kevin mentioned, recruited as a quarterback, switched to wide receiver. He was part of that group from St. Louis that included Marcus Washington that came up to Lincoln. So a touchdown by Isaiah Williams and a touchdown by Brian Hightower.
Oh, look at Brian Hightower. Visited with Keyshawn Johnson Jr. at the first ever Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, some of us are old enough to remember a 6'3" freshman from Calabasas, California, just running past all these small town kids from Nebraska, and picked up an offer that night. Ended up not going to Nebraska, of course. But I'm going to predict a Isaiah Williams touchdown and a Brian Hightower touchdown on Saturday.
Wow, look at that!
He's pretty good.
Brian Hightower?
Yeah, he's having a pretty nice season.
He's did he go to Miami and then he transferred to Illinois? Is that
That's correct? Yeah.
All right. Pick to click, Kevin. Who you got?
Can we let Bruntz go first on this? I want to make sure I don't steal like one of the names you guys got. Because I know you guys were itching to say Ramir Johnson was going to lead the team in rushing against Illinois. So.
You want me to go?
Go for it, Bruntz.
Death, taxes, and Travis Vokalek. That's what we're going with picks to click. He has a big game. Everybody's just going to be staring at the sun trying to find Trey Palmer, but they can't find the mullet streaking down the hash marks for big gains. So I'm thinking like a 6-7 catch day for Vokalek. He's feeling good coming off the bye. I've noticed on social media has been doing a lot of the cryotherapy, with the dry ice or whatever they do. I don't know, but I'm expecting a big game from Vokalek again. He's back on the Bruntz pick to click train. Let's go.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Travis Vokalek back. I will. I'm going to go with a very random pick to click. This could almost have been an oddly specific prediction if you're going to go with this player as a pick to click, because something weird would have had to have happened. And that is Logan Smothers is involved with a touchdown for Nebraska, and that makes him my pick to click in Saturday's game.
I like that. And I'm really happy that we let Bruntz lead this off, because I had thought about Travis Vokalek. So
you got to let Bruntz have the tight end. He gets mad otherwise.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. This all worked out very nicely. I'm going to go with Tommy Hill. I feel like Trey Palmer will probably get neutralized some way, shape, or form, and don't know exactly what the run game is going to look like for Nebraska. So I will go a little bit down the depth chart and a guy that maybe utilized the bye week to learn the offense a little bit better and develop chemistry with the quarterbacks. I will go Tommy Hill getting a handful of catches. If you want a specific number, let's go 5 catches from Tommy Hill on offense, all possession catches just to keep drives alive.
Wow.
But a career high for what is third game at receiver.
So Travis Vokalek, Logan Smothers, and Tommy Hill. I guarantee you no podcast has delivered that collection of picks to click this week. All right, score prediction time. I do have one from BC, who was not able to join us today because he's a little bit under the weather. BC is going Illinois 27, Nebraska 23. So some points for Brian Christopherson there. We'll let Bruntz go.
I think Illinois will outlast Nebraska in a maybe a forgettable, ugly game. But I'm going to say Illinois 25, Nebraska 19.
I'm going to go with Illinois as well. I have Illinois 23, Nebraska 17. Kevin, bring it home. Is Illinois, are we all going Illinois here? Is the guy in the Illinois sweatshirt about to pick Illinois?
I'm going to pick Illinois. I pick Illinois to cover as well. I do want to pump a little bit of brakes on the fighting. Let's be real here. They're leading the Big Ten West, which the Big Ten West is and they're ranked 17th. Of the teams they've played, they have not played a very difficult schedule. So Nebraska might be one of the better teams that they've actually gone against. If you think about their Big Ten teams, Iowa, we know Iowa's offense really stinks. We know that Wisconsin isn't the Wisconsin that everybody predicted. They played and lost to Indiana, though there was horrible game mismanagement at the end of that. And then non-conference wise, what they played Virginia, Chattanooga. This is a team that hasn't been totally tested. I think Nebraska will test them, but I see a couple of late scores from Illinois to maybe disguise the final score. I'll go Illinois defeating Nebraska by a score of 29-20.
Okay. There we go. Everybody's got Illinois. It all seems to be relatively close, though, so no one's predicting a blowout. Kevin, we appreciate your time on the HypeCast as always. You're the first person to wear a sweatshirt of the opposing team, and that's going to be a trivia question down the road.
I offered the change. Let's put that on the record.
Yeah, Look, we wanted it. We like it. It's festive. It adds to it. Next week, I don't know who the guest is going to be, but they're going to have to bring an oar to the show. That's the only way that we're going to allow them on to talk about Minnesota. That's, I think, the determination we're going to make right now. All right, everybody check out Husker247.com. Plenty of coverage leading up to this Illinois game. Plenty of coverage coming off of the Malachi Coleman commitment. Of course, there's stuff about the coaching search on there. So be sure to check out Husker247. We'll have plenty of coverage from this game and everything else. So stop by after, see all of that. We'll catch you next week with some more podcasts at Husker247.